Right, good morning everyone, welcome back to another video. Nothing too drastic today, but we are doing a little bit of work on the old race car. I have made a little bit of a start. That's on the ramp, we've got all the subframe out and stuff. I've done this loads of times, let me spin you around, but there we go. Subframe has been removed. So yeah, I've time-lapsed that bit, so I'll stick that in a second. But as I say, I've done plenty of videos removing the engine, gearbox and subframe out of the race car, so I don't think we need to see it again. Literally took me just under an hour, and I had someone come and pick their vehicle up as well, so it was about 10-15 minutes unaccounted for on top of that. But the reason to do this was to replace the gearbox with a better version, shall we say. So again, I'll spin you around and I'll show you the state of what's... So, we've got the subframe, the old gearbox and the engine out. And we've got a new gearbox just there. We'll come across that in a little bit. But when I was taking the engine and gearbox out, I did notice there was a little drip from the bottom of the bell housing / sump area, through which there was a little bit of an oil leak basically. So I've decided to whip the flywheel, whip the clutch out. Clutch looks absolutely fine. I don't even know what I've done with it. I think it's under there somewhere. But yeah, it looks absolutely fine. But I'll insert a picture now. The oil that came out of it didn't look too good. Now, I'm not concerned about where the oil is coming from because they are open bolt holes. So they will come from the oil galleries and from the engine area. But it's the colour of the oil itself. You can see that's all nice and milky, but you can see it's a nice clean oil around it. So I seem to have this problem every year where we go to start the engine and it's just full of milk, and I don't know why. So I don't know if there's water getting in somewhere. Where the boot lid is, I've got a modified fiberglass boot lid. Where that goes in, it actually, water runs down on top of the oil filter cap from the little dipstick tube. But I don't know, I can't see how that's going to be getting in because the cap and the dipstick is all in. But yeah, we seem to have this problem every year. So, the story of this engine was that I bought this as a second-hand engine. It was rebuilt previously by British legends, and it was in a ZR race car. First round, basically, the car rolled over, and they salvaged the engine out of it. I bought the engine off them, basically. So it is a relatively good, freshly rebuilt engine, although it's been on its top. Built by someone who knows his engines as well, so no quarrels with that whatsoever. So yeah, anyway, I digress. I've literally stuck in a new rear main oil seal, so it's just a case of just bolting everything back together again, flywheel, clutch, and we'll get the gearbox in. So down to the gearbox. The reason to change it is we have no restrictions on what we can do with the gearbox apart from financial restrictions. So we have no restrictions in the sense of regulations, shall we say, with this gearbox. If I wanted to, in the series that I'm running in at the minute, or the championship I'm running in at the minute with these sprint and hill climbs, I could either use a sequential gearbox. There's no limitations, but they are 8 or 9 grand. So this one here is literally a standard PG1 gearbox. It has the Lotus Elise first and second gear, so it's a shorter ratio gear set. MGF third and fourth, and a ZR fifth. And to top it all off, we've got a brand new Quaife LSD in there as well. So hopefully that should be able to put the power down a lot better and be a lot more predictable on the track. It was just a bare case. It looked a bit like this. That was a little bit dirty and stuff like that. So I gave it a bit of a clean and a bit of a paint with some gold paint, just because it's just what I had kicking around basically. I didn't have no silver. All I had was gold. So, and also it cost me a fortune. So the gold sort of like goes with that. I think in total this was about 1,500 quid to have this box done. So, and again, that was done by a reputable person who builds all these boxes for Lotus and MG, including on the racing scene as well. So he knows what he's doing with these. So I've got no issues there whatsoever. Right, that's all together now. Box is on, all the ancillaries are on. So it's just a case of sticking it in the subframe, getting all the mounts on, and then offering it back up to the car. So yeah, looks awesome, gold gearbox, but unfortunately you're not going to be able to see it when it's in the car unless you poke your head underneath. So I am going to stick all that back into there. I'm going to get it back into the car. I'm not going to film any of that, just going to do it. And then I'll catch you when we're going on to the first start. And then we'll start obviously flushing all this old oil out. I've got some really cheap Manol oil to flush out all the oil. And then once we're happy, we can then put the good race stuff in. So I will catch you when we're about to start it. Right, apart from putting the drive shafts in and connecting the hubs back up, that's literally ready to go back in again now. So yeah, we'll just put the drive shafts in, connect the ball joints up, and then we'll get it set in. But my God, that was a nightmare to get the engine into the subframe. Normally I don't have much problems at all, but this time that was just an arsehole basically. There's one word for that, and that is arsehole. But we're there now, so the hard bit's done. Yeah, drive shafts, hubs, and then back in the car. Right, engine is almost back in again now. I've made a couple of discoveries which I thought I'd just tell you guys about, and that is obviously the oil looking like milkshake. There's probably about 15 litres in there, which is more than it should have. It should have about 4.5, 5 litres. It isn't red in colour, so that rules out coolant ingress, and also the coolant was spot on before I drained it. So I then was racking my brains to how it gets in. Now the fiberglass boot lid I've got, water can collect in this little bit here and run down into there, and that is pretty much on top of the oil fill cap and the dipstick. Now I thought, well, the oil fill cap's got a seal on it, the dipstick has got a seal on it, and there isn't really any way that can get in, to be honest with you. But anyway, as I was messing around with that, my old mate next door saw that this top half wasn't sitting on this bottom half correctly, and that one of the screws was half out. And I gave it a little wiggle, and sure enough there was a little bit of a gap between the two mating surfaces. So I then decided to pull it all apart, and you can see that the plastic has just stripped out of all the threads and now all pretty much loose. So what happens is the water sits on top of there, runs down, and then it drips down and then into the oil fill tube basically. So the issue that I had every winter when I start it up is that I've got a milkshake filled engine, is pretty much down to that. Right, the other issue that I've had is obviously been fighting this misfire for ages. So I've stripped the old loom apart. Couldn't really see anything wrong with it, apart from these bunch of earths here. Now when I've done this loom, you have to earth one of the wires, that white and black wire there in the middle, for the fuel pump to work when it's been demobilised. And I just soldered it all into this little ring connector here, and used that as an earth. Now there is connectivity there, but there's a pretty shit soldering job, if I must say, and I'm the one who did that. So I don't know really what I was thinking of yeah, and all the strands are starting to break up in that little brown wire as well. So I managed to get hold of this connector here. I think it's a Samoto one, and that's the same ones that they use for, this is an original MGF one / Honda one, and this is just basically the newer type because you can't get these ones anymore. And all it is just an earth bus that just goes onto chassis, and then you have all these little pins that goes into them. But you should have a plug that plugs into there. This one don't have it, they just click in, and they are a nightmare to get out, hence the reason why there's one cut. So yeah, they're not really tight, if you know what I mean. I'm pretty scared that they might just fall out or vibrate out, so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that. And the only other thing I can think about doing is just filling that void up with resin, and then seal it that way. But we'll have to see how we get on. So again, we're almost there. I've just got to put this wiring back in again, and then fill the engine with oil, and then we can go for the first start. Right, I think we're pretty much there now. I've got the wiring back in, all the control unit in. I replaced that fuel filter as well, because that's over a year old now. Yeah, everything's pretty much in. I've obviously put some fresh oil in. I managed to pick up this 20-litre drum of manol off Amazon. I think that's just over 50 quid, but that gives me 4 flushers. So yeah, we'll do them 4 flushers, and then we'll stick the race oil in. Then we'll do probably Cadwell in a couple of weeks, and then we'll drain that out, and then we'll put in some more race oil, just so that we know that we've got 100% or almost 100% proper motorsport oil in it. So I think we'll just set you up and we'll go for the first start. Turn that on. That is off. Make sure I've got no fuel leaks. Go for it. Finally got oil pressure. Get a tad smoky with all that oil on the manifold. So yeah, I didn't want to run it too long because obviously we've got no coolant in at the minute. But yeah, I guess we'll just check for leaks and put some coolant in, bleed it through, and that'll be job done. Oh, and we need to tie this little bit of wiring loom here. Didn't bother plugging that in, just for the rear lights. So I think that will do it for this little episode, and we've got 2 weeks until we go to Cadwell for the MG Car Club Speed Championship. So yeah, I guess we'll see you there. Hopefully we can do a little bit of a walk around the pits and all that sort of stuff, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, we'll just see you in the next video.